Okay, so it starts with impatience and feeling unsettled, and then it can turn into anxiousness, worry. It starts to consume you, anger. You go down the spiral. You know the end of that story, right? So one of the most important things you can learn in life is actually a skill called frustration tolerance. It's exactly what it sounds like, okay? When you learn to increase your tolerance for frustration, it gives you the opportunity to handle challenging situations with a clear mind, on stable ground, even inviting God's voice into it and saying, okay, how do I process this while honoring all of those depleting emotions? That's what they are. They're not negative emotions, they're not bad emotions, they're depleting emotions. Some of the things that I've already mentioned. While honoring that and the fact that that can be real, how can I hit pause, put them to the side, and allow myself the space and capacity? That's the real key word, okay? Because increased frustration tolerance is really an increase in your capacity. So how can I put those things to the side, honor them, hit pause, and allow myself the space to think more factually? And when you're able to put feelings to the side for a second, not shove them, but put them to the side, and then you're able to think factually, it can bring a lot of clarity to the decisions that you might need to make, whether it's what you do with the next step in your career, whether it's how you handle a relationship that's kind of unraveling, whether it's how you navigate bigger life questions like purpose and fulfillment and the fact that your life is not really aligned authentically with who you know you're made to be. These are big things that can cause you to feel overwhelmed quickly. And one of the most important skills you can learn is the skill of frustration tolerance, because guess what? It's not going to be the last time that you're faced with a challenge. So why is your frustration tolerance so low in the first place? And it's this concept called your window of tolerance, okay? So I do these three kind of motions with my hands because when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about literally a box. And it's a box that looks small, and then a box that looks bigger, and a box that looks even bigger. And that is an increase in your capacity or your window of tolerance. And so as you increase your capacity and window of tolerance, you increase your frustration tolerance. And there are practical things that you can do to get that increase. The first thing you need to understand about all of this is that you are spirit, soul, body, three-part being made in the image of a triune God. And because you're a three-part being, all three parts work together, not individually, not disconnected from one another. Your body is working with your soul and your spirit, and you are all three. So if one of them is not functioning properly, you're probably going to be in a less optimal state or at a lower level of capacity, a smaller window of tolerance. Most people's issue, especially when they've optimized for work for so much of their life, trying to find all of the answers to their life through working and through achieving and performing and through externalizing, most people's problem when they are faced with low capacity, small window of tolerance is that they've overlooked their health. Even though they think that they know what it means to be healthy, they're not practically doing the things that are necessary to stabilize. And what I mean by that is rather than, like coping through scrolling through your phone or working or doing things that are actually more depleting, you can learn how to cope through doing things that are healthy and restoring. So a no phone walk is one practical example. It helps you change your perspective. It actually literally go out and look at the sky and you start to see that life is a lot bigger than what's in your mind, right? Just a simple change like that. I'm sitting out here in the sun right now because I think it's really important that I have exposure to the natural sunlight. And it's not just something that I think is valuable and important, but it's something that I've actually received the benefits of as I've gone through life realizing, well, I can continue doing things the way I've always done and run into the same cycles or patterns of being unsettled, not rested, and extremely agitated and irritable when I face challenges that I don't know how to solve. Or I can, at the very least, recognize that I don't have to die to rest in peace. I can be at peace right now, regardless of my circumstances around me, right? And I can understand how to do things that take care of my body to give myself, my whole self, spirit, soul, body, the best chance at being rested and handling difficult situations at ease. okay? Most people, they're not handling those situations. You can hear my baby's crying. I mean, that's enough to make you not at ease. And especially if you're a new parent to twins. And so you have to understand how your body is made to function and what you need to do to be giving yourself the best chance to process in making decisions. I'll give you a few practical examples of how your body is made to function, okay? Depression and dehydration can have overlapping symptoms. People who are dehydrated also have an increased chance at anxiousness or anxiety. When you're under eating, your body will send a starvation signal that's actually a fake starvation signal. It's telling you need to eat, but you're not truly starving unless you're in a crisis situation, right? And if you're under eating, thinking, oh, well, I don't perform at the level of athleticism and activity that I used to, so therefore I need to eat less. There may be truth to that for some of you, but for a lot of you who've been high achieving, high functioning, high performing, and think you know what it means to be healthy, you actually may be under eating, especially if you're in a high demand, high stress kind of work situation where there's a lot of calories that your brain needs in order to function at the level that you need. And so when you're under eating, your body can send a fake starvation signal, and that can actually start a process in your body where you're deteriorating using energy from muscle tissue instead of other sources. And that's not healthy for you long term, right? Now, our body can do things that adapt and allow us the opportunity to survive short-term changes, and that's fine. But for long term, it's not how we're made to function, to be in that starvation mode. Another really practical one is this fight or flight state called sympathetic tone. And the way that I describe it to people is you can think about fight or flight at the top of the light dimmer. Okay, so it's not a light switch that turns on and off. When you're in fight or flight, it's more like the light dimmer has moved up. Okay, and then you can move down towards rest and digest or parasympathetic tone just by bringing the dimmer down. But it's not necessarily binary, like you're in fight or flight or you're in rest and digest. It's actually more like a light dimmer. And so you want to be thinking about, okay, can I move my light dimmer down towards the rested state? Why? Because our body's not meant to be in fight or flight all the time. It's actually states of high cortisol that are suppressing our immune system and making it more difficult to fight off sickness. Practical example, okay? And when you have cortisol imbalance because you've been in fight or flight for such a long time, you could be wired at night, tired in the morning, and that's going to cause you to be extremely sluggish at what should be otherwise the most productive time in your day, where you could be doing things, knocking out your priorities before you even jump into the workday and the workflow. So I'm just giving you some examples. One of the ways that you can modulate your state of being from fight or flight to more rested state is actually through hijacking your body, the autonomic nervous system, and taking control of your breathing. So if you find yourself mouth breathing all the time, you might actually be in more of a fight or flight state. Again, not binary, but more of like leaning towards it. And one of the ways that you can practically change is just through starting to breathe through one nostril, just one nostril. Really simple, right? You just close one nostril, you breathe in and out through the other nostril, and within a minute or so, even less, you can start telling your body, hey, it's okay. You don't need to be reactive to that email, text message, whatever it might be. We need to calm down, and we're going to start functioning, being led from the spirit rather than what our body is telling me, right? These are some practical ways you can increase your capacity, window of tolerance, that box I was giving you as I was kind of talking it through. And as a result, it's a skill in developing frustration tolerance. The last thing I'll leave you with, and something that people don't think about, is that having a difficult time navigating life challenges and transition and things like that, it's not just a matter of your frustration tolerance, although that's something practical. It's actually a signal of a potential victim mentality that you might be having, where it's this sense of powerlessness, like my life purpose, my life fulfillment depends on the next career that I find and finding alignment with my gifts and passions. Depends on what this person says to me when I tell them my practical needs and whether or not they can meet those needs through the job offer or through the relationship or whatever it might be. When you start externalizing your life and you make things about things that are outside of your control, you will feel a lot more powerless. You will have a lot more difficulty navigating challenges, and your frustration tolerance will be a lot lower. So although I've given you kind of the surface level keys in increasing your frustration tolerance, increasing your window of tolerance and your capacity, you need to recognize too that underneath that surface may be something more in your mindset, your core beliefs. And as soon as you start addressing those core beliefs, you'd be surprised how quickly things in your life start changing. I like to tell people, you don't actually have to change your circumstances to change the way you're experiencing your life. Okay, one small shift in your perspective can change all of the circumstances and how you approach it. So if that makes sense to you and you're ever wanting to have a coaching conversation, try and reveal some blind spots because you're saying, hey, everything that you're saying, TJ, makes sense, but I'm recognizing maybe I've got some belief systems that aren't working, that are maybe not aligned with how God sees things in my life, and I want to get a new perspective on that. Then we can have a coaching call, an introductory coaching conversation, I call it, where we talk about where you're at, where you'd like to be, what's holding you back, and then if I can help, next steps to handle that so you can start attacking it. But regardless, I hope that by now you can at least have a better understanding of not just what frustration tolerance is, but how to increase your frustration tolerance, increase your capacity, handle life's challenges, which aren't going away, but become better at how you're handling them. And you can always reach out if whatever I'm saying is making sense to you. You can always reach out and ask more questions if something comes up. But I think that'll be helpful. Start applying some of the things that I mentioned.